Yeah. So hello everyone. Welcome. And today we have Gopi Karunakaran sir with us. He'll be speaking about progressive income tax and inheritance tax. And we are going to hear debate or discuss or talk, whatever you can consider, about the question, should India adopt it? That too we will be discussing with a rationale. If yes, then why? If no, then why not? What is stopping India from adopting it? So without any delay, let's get started and it's over to you, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Pratika. Nice to be back on your channel. Um, uh, um, mm, uh, Last time I had a wonderful experience being on your channel and talking about the CAA, I believe.
Yeah.
So today our topic is, uh, wealth tax, inheritance tax, and progressive income tax, whether India should adopt it. Um, So I will take you through the history of what has happened in the world, in the West especially, and in India, and I take you to the history, the whole thing, how it happened, and where we are today, and what we should do, and if we adopt these three things: the progressive income tax, the inheritance tax, and the wealth tax. What are the implications? What will happen, etc., etc. Now, if we take the history of, and all this is related to inequality in society.
Yeah.
The wealth distribution in the early 18th century and then 19th century were very unequal. 90% of the people were poor.
Okay.
And only 10% of the landed gentry, that is the nobles and the kings, owned the land. A church. In fact, in Europe, the land was held by the nobles, the church, and the kings. So there was a lot of inequality, and people were very poor. Because of this inequality, there was problems of health. The life expectancy was very low. People who it was around 30 years or something like that, and then there was no education. People were not educated, so there were no skills available. So they were basically serfs, or bonded type of a bonded laborer type of a thing. They were attached to the nobility or the church, and they had to do it day in, day out, 365 days in a year. But I must confess that over the period of the 20th century, early 20th century, down to the 1980s at least, there has been a trend towards an egalitarian society. But that is not enough. At least when India is concerned, the inequality is very high. So we'll come to that, and talk about it. And now, there has been a trend throughout the world since the late 1800s, and then in the early 1900s towards egalitarian society, equality, trying to do away with the inequality which exists in society. There a lot of people came to the fore. They wrote books about it, and so that movement had started. So that had, and there were various other factors, like as you can see on the screen. In the early, in between 1914 and 1918, we had the First World War.
Correct.
The Second World War was from 1939 to 1945. That changed the whole structure. The world order was changed. That was one thing. In the Second World War, we had defeated fascism, both
Mm.
in Nazi Germany and in Italy.
Mm.
And in the First World War, in 1917, the Russian Revolution took place.
Mm.
So that was a that had a big impact on the people of Western Europe. For example, for sure, because of the Russian Revolution, there were communist movements in Germany, France, Austria, and the Eastern European countries.
Mm.
They were very much enamored by the Russian Revolution because what they had done is they had abolished private capital
Mm.
and the state had taken over. And then there was social security and other thing. And this had a big impact on and there were movements in Western Europe and Central Europe towards communism.
Mm.
Then we had the Great Depression of 1930, when the stock market crashed in 1929, the US stock market, and it had a contagion towards the European markets.
Mhm.
Then after that, following that was a Great Depression. So, the differential between the top rich and the bottom had narrowed down. And even in the two world wars, a lot of land was destroyed, buildings were destroyed, the rich people had lost a lot of things. So the gap had narrowed down.
Mm.
Other thing is because of the fear of communism
Mhm.
and the fear of fascism coming back,
Mhm.
the governments were forced to introduce progressive taxation
Mm.
of
Okay.
income and have inheritance tax.
Mm.
Those days, there was no inheritance tax. Whatever you had, would go. But in order to finance the developments in those countries after the two world wars, they had to collect money. They had
Okay.
to collect. So they introduced
Mm.
progressive taxation and inheritance tax.
Mm.
The second was the liquidation of foreign and colonialism. Britain and France,
Mm.
England ruled India,
Yes.
and then France ruled Algeria and a lot of Western African countries.
Mm.
So all those assets were, liquidated because of the national movement or the independence movement in those countries. They had to leave they controlled the entire thing. And that money came back to their country. And that was used for, removing of inequality. The second thing, dissolution of the public debt.
Mm.
A lot of, in order to finance the wars,
Mm.
they had to borrow. They
Okay.
had to borrow
Okay.
money to build,
Mm.
buy arms, to build factories, to pay the
Mm.
soldiers. They had to
Mm.
borrow money.
Mm.
That money was never paid back. So those
Okay.
people who had bought the bonds,
Mm.
which were used to sustain the war, was never paid back.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
For example, in the First World
Mm.
War, the Allies, which is France, England, and the US, had imposed certain reparations on Germany, what is called the German Empire,
Mhm.
the Kaiser's Empire, Imperial Germany.
Mhm.
So that they were trying to repay, but when Hitler came back to power, he
Okay.
refused to pay. So
Okay.
that is what had happened. And then in the Second World War, after the Second World War, there was something called the Marshall Plan.
Okay.
Marshall was the Secretary of State for the
Mm.
US. He
Mm.
had made a plan how to restructure Germany, France, and the UK. So they had allotted certain funds,
Mm.
and that helped these economies to come back.
Mm.
So
Okay.
the funding was done, and that was never paid back. It was supposed to be paid back, and if the payback was to be made, it would have been in the 90s. Until the 90s, 1990s, they would have been paying back, but that never happened.
Mm. Okay.
Now, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who is the famous French philosopher,
Okay.
had said that private property and the what do you call accumulation of wealth, private property and the accumulation of wealth are the origins of inequality and public discord. Okay,
Very true.
this
Very
he,
true.
yeah, this he wrote in just before the French Revolution, and the French Revolution did take place. There, the what do you call monarchy was removed, and then the people came to power, and so they introduced this sharing of wealth and income, but not to the extent that was desired.
Okay.
Right. Now, one other thing I want to add is that equality is, first of all, a social, historical, and political construct. Equality is a social, historical, and political construct. Inequality can lead to public disorder and political discontent. Unless we solve that, today in India, 10% of the people hold more than 55% of our national income.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
then
also equal wealth amongst people would mean that equal access. Now, somebody who's having more money would go to a good hospital, and somebody who's having less money will go to a normal hospital. So, even education-wise, affordability-wise, equality is very essential in financial matters.
What I want to say, with money comes power. It is not only your wealth which is important. Along with that wealth, you have certain social, political, and judicial powers. For example, because of your money, you can exert pressures on the politicians by bribing them, by providing money for their political parties, right? And if it comes to, if I file a case against a rich man, I won't be able to last that case, I mean, I'll file it in the lower court, then it will go into appeal. That man has the money, he can hire the best lawyers.
Very true, very true.
And from that to the Supreme Court. By that time, I'll be dead. I'll have no money. So that is the power that you get, And I, for example, a rich man, can, if he does something wrong and I file a case against him, he's able to influence the police by whatever means. So what happens now? You have to look at the top 10 people, not with the with just the monetary things that they hold, but the bundle of rights that they get with that money, right? So we are disadvantaged, the middle income and the No,
that is true. Like the middle people will be always sandwiched between the rich and the poor.
But you'll be surprised. The middle income people were not that rich in terms of they were maybe slightly. I'm talking about between 1900s, 1870s to 1910 or 1920. They were not rich, they were just a bit above the bottom 50. The 40%, what we call the middle class, cannot be called rich,
True.
They were poor, but a little better than the bottom 50. Right.
Very
that
true.
was the way the society was constructed. Right?
Hmm.
They had very few powers, and they didn't have even political powers. I mean, only the nobles or the rich were. It was based on property. Voting
Yeah.
rights were based on. So where will we have the? I mean, those 40 of the middle and the 50 of the bottom.
Hmm.
When you have based on property,
Hmm.
where will you have vote? So they were
Hmm.
not able to influence the government. The government was formed by the rich. So
Hmm.
they didn't have the wherewithal to fight anything.
True.
Because the voting rights were based on property eligibility.
Yes.
That, as I
That.
said, um, the slave revolt,
Hmm.
Saint Dominic in 1791, that
Hmm.
led to abolition of the Atlantic
Hmm.
slavery.
Hmm.
A lot were taken from West Africa,
Hmm.
in that area, Congo, Benin, and all that area.
Hmm.
And they were taking slaves to Brazil, to the US, and to the Caribbean to
Hmm.
fund the plantation, to work on the
Okay.
plantation, and sugar cane, and
Hmm.
various other things.
Hmm.
And that the slave labor, the amount which was there, was being captured by the rich, those who owned the land in those countries. And that
Okay.
was being
Hmm.
repatriated back to the UK.
Hmm.
Now that because of this, or France, because of this slave rebellion, that money stopped. So the
Hmm.
rich people had to then, that excess money that they had stopped.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the level those people became poor, or they didn't have enough to increase their wealth. So that stopped after some time. And there was something called the poll tax.
Poll tax.
It is POLL, poll tax.
Okay. Poll tax. Okay.
That tax was introduced. If you had to vote, you had to pay a poll tax.
Okay.
Now that poll tax,
Huh.
I mean, poor could never afford to pay the poll tax.
Correct.
If it was equal for everybody,
Hmm.
right? Whether rich or poor, say, he had to pay $1.
Okay.
Whether you're rich or a multi-billionaire, you paid $1. If you earn just $100 per month, you still paid $1. And
Okay.
then you right to vote.
Hmm.
So the poor people never get it. I mean, they could afford to spend $1. So they would know. So that has been abolished, many years ago.
Okay.
About 100 years ago. But that was a relevant factor. It was just about the rest of the people.
Okay.
From being the country of making policies.
Policies.
So that was the thing about.
Hmm.
Now, as I mentioned to you,
Hmm.
in Europe,
Hmm.
because of these two world wars, the Great Depression, and other things,
Hmm.
the countries had to raise money.
Okay.
Was the effect of all this? Can you go to the?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did progressive taxation come about? One, I want to tell you, is the progressive movement in the West.
Hmm.
Writing on that,
Hmm.
the stock market crash of 1929,
Hmm.
the need to finish the Great War, which is the World War I, and the Russian Revolution in 1917, and the fear of return of fascism. The Russian Revolution had a big impact on the people of, it's a better system.
Hmm.
It is a better system where there is equality and other things. So the people in Western Europe, especially the social democrats, who were socialists but were not
Hmm.
communists,
Hmm.
decided that if we have to keep the people
Hmm.
people happy, we would need to introduce a welfare society.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. So if we don't establish a welfare state,
Hmm.
it is quite possible that the communists will take over.
True.
The people will be enamored by communism and they will take over. So that is what happened. And that
Hmm.
was one of the driving forces of
Hmm.
introduction of
Hmm.
welfare state.
Okay.
For example, in the UK,
Hmm.
um, in 1940s,
Hmm.
immediately 45,
Hmm.
immediately the Labour Party,
Okay.
led
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
Mr. Attlee,
Hmm.
came to power.
Okay.
Right. The Labour Party was a socialist party, which
Okay.
was in favor of the workers and other things.
Hmm.
So they introduced what is called the National Health NHS, National Health Service.
Hmm.
Today, that service is one of the best in the world
Hmm.
and provides for healthcare to all citizens of the UK free of
Hmm.
cost.
Hmm.
Right? That was in 1940. All citizens
Hmm.
in the UK, irrespective of whether you are rich, poor, you have to go there. Right? Whether it is there are private doctors, you can go there if you want to. But if you want to have free Medicare or medical assistance, you have to go to NHS.
Hmm.
And the surprising thing is 50% of the doctors and nurses are Indians. I know
Oh,
that is a
okay.
so
That,
NHS.
that's true.
Uh,
If we see the
so
cricket
NHS,
teams today also, it feels like IPL feels more international than that of the T20 World Cup, which is happening right now. It feels like any USA player you see, any Canada player you see, everybody is Indian. They have the Indian surnames and Indian names.
so NHS was one of the first things that they did.
Hmm.
Um, so what happened
Hmm.
once this progressive taxation was introduced?
Hmm.
There was equality.
Hmm.
There was free and obligatory education.
Okay.
Right? It is not, our constitution
Saying.
guarantees only up to
Hmm.
14 years.
Hmm.
There it is free and compulsory education,
Okay.
secondary education, right?
Okay. Hmm.
There are private schools,
Hmm.
no doubt, if you are rich, you can go there.
Okay.
But most of the people go to what is called the public schools,
Hmm. Okay.
which are good, I mean,
Hmm.
second is universal health
Hmm.
insurance. That there is this NHS. So you have similarly in Germany, France,
Okay.
it's all paid by
Hmm.
the government. Now, how this
Okay.
works? There is in India, it is not there, but
Hmm.
they have something social security tax.
Yes.
Today, I have to pay social security tax
Hmm.
so that the older people who are older to me, can avail themselves of free health care.
Okay.
Okay, just as when you grow old,
Hmm.
just as you grow old, the younger generation will pay for you.
Pay for you.
Right? You got the point, what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
I pay for the generation
Hmm.
before me.
Hmm.
next generation
Will pay for me.
coming work from their salary, they will pay for my health.
Hmm.
So this is what is happening. So what is happening? It's a form of taxation on this generation to help me in my old age to be supported by health and pensions.
Hmm.
You get that point, and it is an accepted norm. Nobody objects to that because they know I'm doing it so that the next generation will do it for me.
Will do it for you. Correct.
Right. So you don't have to worry about, your pension, your housing, or your medical care.
Yeah.
You don't have to bother. You
Hmm.
just go there, social security number, you'll get admitted.
Hmm.
Thing is that there, only for critical care they admit you immediately. So as I
Immediately. Okay.
mentioned to
Apart
you,
from that,
without
no.
the existence of the communist Soviet Union, the Western property owning class
Hmm.
would have not accepted the social security and progressive income tax.
Okay.
Without the fear of communist Soviet Union, they
Hmm.
wouldn't have done.
So,
And because of this progressive taxation,
hmm.
the level of literacy and health and life expectancy went up,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
Which was 30 years, went up substantially to 70 years.
Hmm.
Life expectancy from 30 went up to 7. Yeah. And education in the US by 1950, 80% of the people had secondary education.
Hmm.
Similarly, in Europe, the youngsters, all had about 80 to 90% had
Mhm.
secondary education
Yeah.
by the
Mhm.
60s and 70s. In
Yeah.
Japan, almost 90% of the children had secondary education by the
Mhm.
year 1960. So if
Hmm.
you look at these countries,
Mhm.
because of the high literacy rate,
Mhm.
they were able to, advance economically. The
Hmm.
GDP, and Japan became the second largest economy in the world after the US. Because
Hmm.
now it has gone down because of various reasons, aging population and other things. But at that time, the only reason why it was able to come up is because of education and skill development.
Hmm.
This is what led to the progressive taxation led to life expectancy.
Okay.
All this thing matter.
So if you see the gap between a rich person and a poor person in India is way more larger than you find it in UK, US, and other places. Do you think this taxation is somewhere a
No, it
reason
is
for that?
not true. It is not true. I'll tell you. Now in the US, if you look at the history, I think there's a chart somewhere, where it explains.
Okay.
When the progressive taxation was at the highest, almost 90%, the growth of the American economy was the highest,
Okay.
right? When it was
Yeah.
90%, almost 90%, the growth of US economy was the highest. And progressive and everything was introduced almost after, the crash, the Great Depression in the 1930s to fund the World War II, right? And 1950 to 1980, or the end of almost touching 1990, the US saw the biggest growth in their economy, and the equality was very the inequality was very low. But after Mr. Ronald Reagan became the president
Mm-hmm.
of now the US, he
Mhm.
introduced what is called monetarism, which is an economic theory propagated by Milton Friedman and Hayek. He's an Austrian economist
Mm.
who wrote the very famous book, Road to Serfdom,
Mm.
right? And there he said that, he said that government intervention will lead to less freedom.
Mm.
He said, let the markets operate,
Mm.
let the markets decide.
Mm.
That is the theory of laissez-faire. You
Mm.
must have heard the word laissez-faire, let the market decide.
Mm.
That has become a disaster for the US. Today, the inequality in the US is so high
Mm.
that if you look at the minimum rate
Okay.
or the standard rate which is being paid in the US
Mm.
in
Mm.
1950,
Mm.
that same $11
Mm.
adjusted for inflation today in 2022 is $7.25.
Okay,
The
that's
purchasing power of the US is in the lowest 50%
Mm.
has come down.
Mm.
Students are not able to fund their education because everything is privatized. No public schools are being opened.
Mm.
You have to pay through the school.
Mm.
The funding for promotion and funding for establishment of schools have been stopped because the government is not having funds. The
Yeah.
funds come from
Mm.
taxing of the rich.
Mm.
Warren Buffett, he must be the second or third richest man in the world.
Yes. Mm.
The amount of taxes that he pays
Mm.
is much less than what his secretary pays. Effective
That's
tax.
the irony. That's the irony.
Yeah, the effective tax rate,
Huh?
what Warren Buffett pays,
Okay.
is much less than the effective tax that his secretary pays.
Face.
This
Oh
is
my
so the tax rates for the rich have come down from 90%. I
God. Mm.
have to look at what is the rate
Yeah.
now. But so there is so much inequality in the
Mm.
society now
Mm.
that people are not able to fund their education. And it was only after, and they were not even able to pay their medical expenses. It was
Okay.
only after Mr. Obama
Mm-hmm.
came,
Mm-hmm.
the Obamacare.
Mm.
So where now you have to still contribute to it to
Yes.
avail of that. It is you will have to pay something
Mm.
to avail of that.
Mm.
So much debate and discussion, political intrigue and all that. Well, ultimately that was passed. And Mr. Trump, who later came after, was saying that he will abolish it. He did not be able to do it. Now, what I'm
Okay.
saying is, and the American society is so much oriented towards the rich.
Mm-hmm.
And if exemptions and other things, whereas the poor will not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a myth, saying that in America, they have to struggle to live.
Like
Yeah.
that's the struggle is actually the real one here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in France, Germany, and Sweden, and the United Kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
tax receipts amounted to between 40 to 50%.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you look at the GDP, tax to GDP,
Mm-hmm.
it's much less than. So it is necessary that we increase our tax receipts
Mm-hmm.
so that fund education, and health. These are
Yes.
two things which are very important for us.
Mhm.
These receipts by increased taxation was used to spend on these two things, thus reducing inequality and encouraging growth.
Mhm.
So if you have an educated population,
Mhm.
a skilled population,
Mhm.
see, I'll tell Vietnam,
Okay. Mhm.
which was destroyed by the war
Mhm.
from 1975,
Okay.
was destroyed by war.
Mhm.
Okay. Ultimately, the country got united. There was North Vietnam and South Vietnam.
Mhm.
And then ultimately, the country got united.
Mhm.
That country was destroyed, totally
Mhm.
destroyed. As
Mhm.
today, 95% educated population and
Mhm.
skilled, right? So the companies which are leaving China now because of the problem between US and China,
China.
they
Yeah.
are going to Vietnam. They are
Okay.
going to Vietnam. People are skilled.
Mhm. Mhm.
Want to come to India because in India we are not having the skilled people. I mean, look at the people coming out from the colleges, the engineering colleges.
Mhm.
They wouldn't be able to tell the difference between decameter and centimeter. You
Yeah,
know,
because
or what?
the knowledge is very much textbook oriented. Like they are not taught to apply the knowledge that they have studied. This is like even I
Yeah,
have faced it. Like whatever I studied in college, I am doing nothing of it in my daily work today. Like if you ask me, what are the things that you are going to apply or you are applying that you studied in the college, I don't know nothing. I felt that I started studying, after I came out of the college.
yeah, true. See, we are learning by rote,
True.
right? And you see, when whatever you do, you have to do have an apprentice.
Hmm.
See, for example, the doctors, they have an internship.
Hmm.
You don't get your degree. You work, I don't know how many years, but at least minimum of a year to be
Hmm.
as an
Hmm.
intern.
Hmm.
I mean, you have to learn the job, on the go. I mean,
Yeah,
you have to
true.
apply.
You have to
So,
stand in that shoe and then do it, not just looking at it or
okay.
listening to someone who is telling that. It will never give that first-hand experience.
And when you are, when you're thrown into the
What
pond, you learn
you
to.
learn swimming. Yeah, that
So,
cannot be taught theoretically.
yeah, it's very difficult.
So
So,
that's very true. And also, sir,
relate,
like as you said, Vietnam was built in such a great speed and all of the things. Now, don't you think that there is a contribution from the bureaucrats as well, like the government officials? They are very prompt. They utilized money, and see now many of the people who are paying tax, they also feel that there is a corruption on the other side also. So this money is going to all those families, they will be giving tenders to themselves and all other things. So your take on
yeah.
that perception that, see, even I have that perception to an
Yeah,
extent.
yeah, Vietnam, if you take the question of Vietnam is a
Mm.
communist country,
Mm.
one of the communist countries.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean, they are not corrupt. I don't know, but, they would be also corrupt. But they have the flips, the other side also, that they see that, the people are satisfied.
Okay.
If you
Mm.
look at in West Asia, Saudi
Mm.
Arabia, UAE,
Mm.
it's
Mm.
not that they are making money on the side, but at least they see that these things are made available to the citizens.
Yeah.
Right, the best they build, they build houses and, nobody is on the street there. And
Mm.
nobody is, or, starving.
Mm.
So that has to be the attitude. I mean, corruption is something which will be there. So, but I don't know to what extent,
Yes, ma'am.
but it does eat into your, revenue. That is for
Hmm.
sure.
That is
So,
also a paying factor for many of the people. Like they'll give work to themselves, they'll curb all the money, and we have to give the money.
we have to, it is for us to see that we elect only people who are,
Very true, very true.
I
That
can't,
is, see, we also have to take, like, we have to file RTIs, we have to keep eye on tenders, who's taking it, and all prompt complaining mechanism. Like if a road is in the initial stages itself, if it is not being made good, file a complaint, file a PIL, do take some corrective actions before the damage done. So yes, this comes with a great responsibility. So we have to ensure that we are getting the work done of our home. Like even if we have to
yeah,
get a patch painted, we're like, hey, see, look at there, it's not correct, it's there, here. We ensure that we do the paisa vasool. So the same thing we have to do
yeah,
with the government as well. That our whatever tax that we have paid, it may be 40%, 50%, it has been exhausted.
yeah. So, now coming to, the surprising thing, this is ulta hua. You can
Yes.
see that, how the life expectancy from 1820 because of
Yes.
this has been
Hmm.
going up. It has almost
Hmm.
reached 85, where it was just a little above 10%, and
Hmm.
now gone to 85. Because of this, thing, which I'm talking about 2020, where
Hmm.
80% survival rates are there
Hmm.
that's the literacy rate, right? This is the world, thing. And
Okay.
then life expectancy, birth, that also has gone up to, years about, 65, 66 years. So
Hmm.
what I'm saying is, these things happen
Hmm.
because and these are recorded. I mean, there is nothing, there is not nothing, a lot of
Bad.
research has gone on. A lot of research has gone into that. There is empirical study, there is data available to prove this.
Hmm.
We will see some of the charts also where you will see a lot of things happening.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
other one.
See, on healthcare, 9% of the national income is spent.
Yeah.
This is okay of the Western countries.
Hmm.
Retirement disability pension, which is
Hmm.
about 6%. Then education,
Hmm.
6%.
Hmm.
Right. Other social expenditures, welfare transfer, family unemployment is about 10%. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to tell, almost 47% goes
Hmm.
into this. Where does
Yeah.
this money come from? It comes from progressive income tax,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And um, uh, inheritance tax and wealth tax. I think my
Hmm.
video is.
Yeah, I think you are out of focus there.
Oh, yeah, it has been. Just let me quit and.
Yeah.
Now it's okay.
Now it is correct. Now it is correct.
So what I'm saying is, and where does this money come from?
Hmm.
It comes from progressive income tax,
Hmm.
inheritance tax, and wealth tax.
Okay.
Right. See, our on healthcare is 2%, whereas they're spending 9%.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Yeah.
Healthcare we need to spend more. Like recently in Delhi, also we could see that because of non-timely treatment, many of the people died due to heat wave. So I think that's also a
See, on,
concern. And also upcoming, not only just in the healthcare, I think we'll have to spend a lot of money on the environment thing. This year,
yeah.
2024, we faced a lot of global warming. Like including Bangalore. Cities like Bangalore, which was considered like climately heavenly place. Even there we had heat waves, and Delhi and other places. So you don't talk about that. Let's not talk about the temperature over there. So I think in an alarming rate, the government will have to spend a lot of money on the environment protection as well in the nearest 2 to 3 years. That's what I could foresee.
See, now this chart shows the richest 0.1%,
Hmm.
0.01%.
Hmm.
Can you imagine that? See the spike, they own at least, see the spike, the richest 1%, the richest here.
Yeah, true.
This is the rest of the population. So
It's
what
become
happened
quite a
is
rich
that,
in recent times.
and this is the period 1950 to 1980 when there was a fall,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then there's a spike. This is what is happening now. So this is only the rich people. Now I think there's another chart where we'll see what happens to the Asha. Now
The tax rate.
this is what I said, the growth.
Hmm.
Now if you see this is the taxation thing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
This is the taxation, progressive tax,
Hmm.
right? And the growth,
Hmm.
and nothing else.
Yeah.
Now, when you reduce the progressive tax, the
Hmm.
growth is falling,
Correct. So they are
right?
related to each other,
Yeah,
proportional to each other.
because if you spend money on education, healthcare, infrastructure, naturally there will be growth. Then
Correct.
money is available. So
Hmm.
that is what has happened.
Hmm.
It's difficult for people to realize,
Hmm.
unless we show them in graph,
Yeah.
next slide. Yeah.
Yeah. Top 1% national income share.
The top 1%, which,
Hmm.
it came down. How it was coming down, I said this period, 1950 to 1982, it
82.
was drastically coming down because
Hmm.
of progressive income tax.
Hmm.
Now, after Ronald
Why?
Reagan and Margaret Thatcher came to see the spike,
Correct.
they own to 1% of the people
Hmm.
own 5.5% of the national income.
Correct. This is a
Right?
very alarming thing. This should
Yeah.
not be
Is it?
ignored. Like this
In
cannot be ignored.
Yeah, in 1982, it was midway somewhere, 6% or so.
Hmm.
But then see all this, how it is going up.
Yeah.
Because you're not taxing this portion,
Correct.
that is what has to happen.
Hmm.
Go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This-
See, this black thing is the middle income,
Hmm.
right?
Oh, the middle income has come down.
Huh?
It has
This
come down.
middle is come down.
Yeah.
And then the top 10
It
is
has.
going up. Top 10, the top 10
Yeah.
rich people.
True.
And what is
And
happening
this
is
is
the
very, very
40%.
disturbing thing actually, because who are the middle class people, they are becoming poorer, wherein the rich are
Yeah,
becoming richer.
yeah. The top 10% is having almost about 58 or whatever percentage
Hmm.
of the national income,
Hmm.
right, in 2022. And
Hmm.
whereas the middle 40, where we can say we are there,
Hmm.
is what, hardly 27 or 28%,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Even this is very
This
disturbing figure. This is actually.
this gap is enormous. And this is
Hmm.
only because of taxation. Bad
Taxation.
taxation.
True.
Yeah. Next chart.
This is bottom 50% versus top 1% national income shares.
Yeah. So the bottom 50% is hardly 15% or so.
True.
And the top thing holds, that is 50%, or
Hmm.
the people own 15% of the national income.
Income.
Whereas, the top 1% holds 22.5%.
22.5%. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
like the richer person has so much of money, right? The poor people,
yeah.
like, and even the middle class people is struggling to afford things here. So this is, yeah, and also we could see that there is spike during the COVID period. Yeah, 2000, no, there is,
Yeah, 14% and went up a little bit,
yes, yes,
but it
yes.
came down to, yeah,
True.
that is thing. And another thing I want to tell you that these progressive taxes did not discourage any innovation
Huh?
or productivity. I mean, it's
Yes.
not that I'm getting less and that is why I won't work that much.
True.
Productivity was there. I mean,
Correct. And also, so some of the mindset, especially of that richer people, is like, I have made adequate. My son will sit and he will eat. That is what many people think. It's like, I have
yeah,
struggled a lot, and my son is he's gonna enjoy his life. He's gonna just spend whatever I have earned. I've made sufficient self-earning or self-multiplying income, sources of income. So I think there will be a break to all of those things.
yeah. Now
It's like
we can
it's like
come
the
to
king
the,
is making the fort, and the king is like, yeah, my son will be the king, and he'll rule this fort. So that is going to break.
yeah. So can we go to the next
Sure,
this
sure. Yeah.
chart? Yeah, this is the inequality in India, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, the bottom 50 is just below 10% in India. In the overall world thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct.
It was 15, but in India is less than 10%.
So we could see the gap, how huge it is.
Yeah. And the top 10% holds more than 60%.
True.
And the middle guys are around 30%.
And also, you could see that since 1982, this started. I think around the same time, this wealth tax or inheritance tax was abolished by Rajiv Gandhi, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah, yeah, correct, correct.
right?
Yeah, that's an observation. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was during the same period, and we could see that spike, like how the difference is happening since then.
Yeah, you're right. And the next hike happens. Okay. Now, the top 10 in
Hmm.
India has almost 57. The only country which above us is, South Africa.
Uh-huh.
The
Yes,
rest are all down.
down.
See,
Hmm.
because of progressive taxes here,
Hmm.
UK is just 30,
Hmm.
34, China, US. Okay, but if you see, it is 57%.
Yeah, true.
And if we are able to have this, then we can bring it down to some levels at this. No, it is exorbitant.
True, sir. Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and wealth of richest Indians.
yeah, of course, a share of the national income, uh, because there are two companies, one is Forbes and Hurun.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, it's ridiculous to have 25% of the entire income.
Correct.
There are 87 people
Hmm.
total in India who own
Yeah.
25% of the wealth.
That's very bad, sir. That's very bad.
See, people don't know this.
Hmm. That's the irony. Like they do not know, and also the people who know, they do not want to do anything about this. They're like, it's okay. What can we do? It's okay. He's making good money. Let him make good money. That's what they think.
See, when in 1952,
Hmm.
the middle income owned more than the top.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that one, like that cross in intersection that happened. That I think that was like very changing.
Uh, nine, 98 and
1997.
this 91, 92 is the period when liberalization took place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, Manmohan Singh was the finance minister and Narasimha Rao was the prime
Mhm.
minister.
Mm-hmm.
So that this hike is there.
Yeah.
And what has happened? Middle class is losing out.
Mm-hmm.
The lower bottom 50 has already lost out. It has become worse.
Sinking, like it was literally sinking.
I mean, if these things are not rectified, one day or the other, somebody will wake up and we will have problems.
And I think
Right.
it's a high time that this gets rectified.
Well, it is up to us to elect a government which can rectify that.
Which can do that one. Actually, that's true. And I don't see any government doing this. If anyone does, then that would be a very bold move.
No, that is why, when we come to the chart of what we are proposing,
Hmm.
right, then you will see,
Hmm.
and maybe this wealth is, yeah, this is
Yeah,
what the proposal, and this is not mine, this is by Thomas Piketty and others. Testing. They have given three, one is the baseline, one is a moderate, it's for the government to act in an
Act on this.
ambitious program,
Hmm.
right? So in the wealth tax, they're saying 2% on the net wealth. The net wealth is land, buildings, financial assets, industrial assets, minus the debt owned.
Yeah.
Okay. That every year you charge 2% on anybody who's having more than 10 crores of that. Right?
Yeah.
The moderate thing is the same thing, 2% on net wealth for more than 10 crores and 4% on net wealth of 100 crores. Right? And ambitious, the same thing. Inheritance tax, they are saying 33% on estates, which is land, building, car, all those over 10 crores, 33%. Then 45%, 100 crores. Right? Now,
Well, because I could see only 0.04% affected. And
yeah.
that's
So
I
why
think
should
that's a fair deal.
people like us, why should, I mean, we will not even come there.
Very true,
Even
very
if-
true. I don't see myself in top 0.04%.
Yeah. Even if I try to reach for that, you can open more schools or whatever it is, double the number. You're spending 2% today.
Yeah.
I can, double. Or if you operate the moderate, 4.9, you can build hospitals or whatever it is. And 6%. That's what I'm saying, I mean, this is a proposal which I think some of your listeners should have a look at it. And we are not going to get affected. Why should you? There was a controversy just before the elections.
Yeah, and we are going to
If
be
you-
benefited out of this. That is
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah. There was a controversy just before the elections,
Yeah, regarding
some
this
people
inheritance
said,
tax.
they said they are going to तुम्हारा छीन लेगा मंगलसूत्र
Ah,
I don't want to get into things of that. It was wrongly projected, right?
mm,
But the fact is here, I mean, out of 1 billion people, I think 40,000 people will be involved.
mm.
That's what I'm saying. It is 4%, 0.04%. So I would like your
Also, this has
listeners
to
to
be
have.
made. This has to be made irrespective of citizenship, because when this was being discussed during election, the major point that popped up was like the richer people will give up Indian citizenship and take foreign citizenship of some other country.
That can be resolved. Because
Yeah.
if they have assets here,
Mhm. That has
just
to
like,
be kept
if you're.
in the laws that way. I
Yeah,
think that
no,
has to
what
be
I'm saying
a
with
condition.
today's availability of infrastructure and what do you call IT infrastructure, we are able to monitor this. Now, just like if you are earning income here in India, you are
Mhm.
taxed at Indian law,
Right.
right? Similarly, if you are having assets here and the value increases, you will have to be taxed on that.
Very
Whether
true.
you
Very
stay, that doesn't, will not affect. I mean, coming to your question of whether it is legally possible, yes.
true.
Because one is that this is a legislative thing. Every year we are having budgets. Your income tax rates are decided by the budget, whether it is 30% or 25% or whatever. This can also be done. So there is no legal impediment to this. Plus, the our director principles of state policy. We are doing to getting to that, because the director principle of state policy says that education for all and health and this and that. So my justification is that this is towards that.
Correct.
See, the only thing people should understand this and then take a view on that. I'm not getting affected. It's just the 4%. And the point.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah. Right. So we Indians need to look at this very carefully. This is not my work. It is the work of Thomas Piketty, who has, he has written few great books, Capital and Ideology, and Capital in the 21st Century. I mean, those who are interested can have a look at it. And this is whatever slides I have shown is from those books.
Okay.
And one of the greatest economists, he's a Frenchman, and he's one of the greatest economists. He has done wonderful job. I mean, there's so much available with him. And he has been doing studies since the 1750s.
Okay, that's very long back.
250 years. And these are backed by data.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there is no guesswork.
Yeah. Whatever we discussed in today's session, it was all with numbers, it was all with figures. It was not even a logical thing, not on purely on logics, but purely on facts.
Yeah. And, to the extent possible, I have tried to, the history of inequality is very large. I mean, there's so much to talk about. So when you talk about, wealth and income, wealth is basically land and building, plus financial assets and industrial assets minus debt. If you look at it, in India,
Hmm.
I mean, a middle class community like ours, uh, I mean, how many houses can you have?
Hmm.
How many cars can you have? Right?
Hmm.
I mean, we may have one house, two houses, two cars in the family. And the bottom 50 have nothing. I mean, these are
Nothing.
basically from the rural areas.
Hmm.
Their houses are made of mud and wood.
True.
I mean, they have very little land. I mean,
True.
maybe less than an acre.
Hmm.
So, build uh, their purchasing power. See, we don't realize that once these people have a purchasing power,
Hmm. Hmm.
they will require more wants. They have more wants. They want to buy a refrigerator. They may want to buy a car.
Hmm.
And when they have that purchasing power, naturally the economy will grow. But today, the wealth is concentrated on a few hundred people. And how many cars they can buy, how many, air conditioners they can buy. They will have to splurge that money, right? Uh, the other thing, what I want to also say is that the top people,
Hmm.
uh, they have the financial muscle to control the government,
Hmm. Very
by
true.
political parties. And that is what has happened in the US.
Hmm.
The, the elections are funded by these rich people.
Hmm.
And they will say, I will fund this, your election, if you help me get these things done.
Hmm.
Right? So that is what is happening. And it is
Correct.
happening in India to a certain extent. The rich
Correct.
people are getting policies done
Hmm.
on their behalf.
True.
The policies are changed on their behalf.
Hmm.
The natural resources of this country is going to in their favor because they are able to influence the government.
Exactly.
So once you reduce that power, that bundle of power that they have, including financial muscle,
Hmm.
has to be reduced.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the state of things will continue there for a
Forever.
long time.
And
So,
also the gap will increase more. In addition to continuing, it will grow and it will expand. So that's more concerning, the growth.
yeah, yeah.
And finally,
So,
circling back to from where we have come, like even if you could recall the historical times, it was like the king, he has everything, he will show mercy on the people, give them
yeah.
money. Yeah, I think if the situation continues like this, something like that would gradually happen.
Um, it requires careful planning
Hmm.
by the government
Hmm.
to see that there are no loopholes. Now, for example, the gift tax
Hmm.
was removed in 1998.
Hmm.
We need to reintroduce that. Why should you gift?
True.
I mean, you have to pay. See, even in the gift tax, it has to be graded. Like if
Hmm.
you are giving to your sons, the tax will be lower. But
Hmm.
not sons, children, it is lower. But if you gift it to a near relative, then it will be this. And if it is to some stranger or outside your family, then it has to be high.
And
So it has to be graded.
And also, in addition
Similarly,
to relaxation and taxation, the government has given relaxation in the stamp duty too. Like if
yeah,
the property is being transferred between blood relatives and some, they have given certain criteria like between brother, sister, and many others. So the tax rate is less. Sorry, the stamp duty is less. So even
that
there, the government is incurring loss.
uh,
So
yeah.
yeah, let's hope
The
the
one other
government
thing
comes
which
up with a good and robust plan regarding this accumulation of wealth.
you know, it has to come from ground up.
True.
Like there has to be people, and there has to be a realization in the government that this is a necessary thing.
Yeah,
And if
and
it,
also along with the government, I think the people should understand that this is the difference, and this is how the richer is getting the richest and the poor is getting the poorest, along with the middle class people also, instead of growing, they are like sinking in the financial thing.
Yeah. The most important thing is that, economists
Yeah.
and, the public at large
Mhm.
should, discuss this, talk to the local representatives or their MPs and say that this is necessary.
Mm.
Um, and what happens is that, the rich people also have their think tanks,
True.
which formulate, and they are able to fund these think tanks out of the money that they earn.
Yes,
And
they put in.
yeah, and they fund these think tanks and
Hmm.
make them, they modulate, or their project reports will be towards their interest,
Hmm.
not to the public at large.
True.
In terms of environment, forests, so many
Hmm.
things. I mean, exploitation of natural resources.
Hmm. Hmm.
In America, they are denying that there is climate change, and
Hmm.
climate change is affecting the earth and the people. They are
Hmm.
denying that.
It, it
So
is it is like the
yeah,
most I could say that they cannot tell that everywhere it is heat. Even
yeah,
I was very shocked to read it the other day that in UK they are considering it as heat wave, and apparently the temperature is only around 26. And I'm like, come on, that's the normal temperature that we have here. So what will you tell for the 40, 41, whatever we are experiencing today?
yeah. Similarly, global warming, in the sense, many people are against, using solar power, or for that matter, you will find articles, which say that solar power is more expensive, more damaging,
Hmm.
or than using
Hmm.
oil and petrol for your car.
Hmm.
Or, lithium ion batteries, which is battery operated cars,
Hmm.
are worse off than.
Hmm.
So there are, and in America, you can get people by the dozen who you can pay them a few $1,000. They can write a report for you,
Yeah.
considering your point of view.
True.
So they have the power, they have the muscle,
Hmm.
to change policies in India, or
Yes.
policies to adapt to their needs. So
Hmm.
I think, we have a long way to go, and I hope one
Everybody
day.
runs that campaign through social media. Like, if you could see, I think that is impacting a lot. The
Yeah,
unverified messages, these memes and all, as you said, like the Mangal Sutra leke jayega and all other things. I think because of social
yeah,
media, it got so much of hype and so many
yeah.
things. Even I was,
It is for it is for people like you, at your age, to go and propagate this, talk to students in colleges, and especially the young mind, I mean, in the schools, who are in the 10th or 12th standard,
yeah,
to explain to them that this is the thing and this is. If you look at, the education, see, we have privatized education.
true.
We have privatized healthcare. I
Mm,
mean, who can afford, to go to colleges, pay capitation fee, pay 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs,
mm,
or get admitted to hospitals.
mm,
Um, uh, you know, so I think, we need to have universal healthcare,
mm,
and we need to have compulsory education up to the
mm, mm.
standard 12, a secondary up to 12, otherwise, we have, and that this is the government responsibility.
True.
We have to. I don't think, we can build infrastructure and all later, but the basic thing of primary healthcare and secondary or even tertiary healthcare,
Mm.
and
Education.
education and skill development.
Yeah. And education also, I would like to emphasize on quality education.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
about just the degrees that they get, but about the knowledge
True,
and
true.
application of knowledge, the skill to apply that knowledge. That is more
Yeah,
important. Because I honestly believe that ignorance somewhere can be excused, but half-baked knowledge is not tolerable. That is more dangerous in society in today's day, which is full of social media and all other stuff. If you see the TV also, they'll be telling their own stories. It's like what's happening, what's not happening, and so that's very difficult. So they have to have that knowledge to understand and interpret whether the other person's interpretation is right or wrong. That is more important.
true. So this is what I have to say, and I hope you found it interesting and worth
Yeah,
your
very
while.
much, very much, very much. I think I time traveled from Hitler to the current time. I'm not comparing any leaders here, but still, like the examples that what we had and like the French Revolution, Hitler, the World War, and all other stuff to today's 2024. It was a good time travel to me where I understood all the financial matters, like how it was, how the society was financially, how was a rich person and poor person, now how a rich person and poor person is. Now, if you could see today, a rich person can like can accommodate 4 to 5 pre-wedding bashes and another wedding things, and that was spending hundreds of millions. Whereas an middleman or a poor person cannot even afford to get a decent marriage, one single decent marriage to his daughter. So that's the difference that we have.
In fact, marriage is a big expense for the bottom 50 people.
True, true. It's like the lifetime earning that is being poured in that marriage. Whereas
They,
for some XYZ person, it is just 0.0001% of his income.
yeah, and he has to borrow money
True.
to fund
That's
the
very
wedding, and then the repayment of that. I
exactly.
mean, uh, because of social pressure, the community pressure and peer pressure, he
Hmm.
has to spend money.
True.
He has
Correct.
to give something to, because of our social thing, like if he has a daughter, then, he has to give a dowry.
Correct. And
Uh,
also,
yeah.
if you see in social media, like in Instagram and all, they'll like, she's wearing the cloth of rupees 24 lakh. I was wondering if I calculate the price of worth of all the clothes that I have in wardrobe, it will not reach up to even 1 lakh. Forget about 24 lakh. Hardly it will reach up to 1 lakh.
And you wear it once. You wear it once.
Yeah, true, correct. Oh my God, what is this? How would they even spend that much of money? And even the sandals and all other things. If I purchase around 3,000, 4,000, then that would be a bigger one. Oh my God, just that money or something like that. So even the sneakers and all, it will like maximum 3 to 4,000. For them, it's like 3, 4 thousand, say, 3, 4 lakh. It will the price will start from 3, 4 lakh. Wherein for a person, it is like his annual salary, annual package.
So
That's
this is all what I have to say.
yeah,
So
that's
spread this
really
among your
informative, sir.
friends. Yeah.
Really informative, and I could gather a lot of information, and I think it is clear on the minds of people also, like what it is and what not it is. It was really informative, and it was like with figures, with facts. It was easily understandable also, and your hard work in preparing the slide and also preparing yourself to the talk. The talk itself spoke about it. Whatever if I express it, I don't think I'll be able to make justice to the hard work that you have put.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really,
So thank you
thank
very
you
much
so
for
much, sir.
giving me this opportunity.
No, I
Right?
should thank you for giving, thank you to give me this opportunity that I could understand about the taxation from historically, not just like why this is required or what is this. You explained with all the possible rationale, with all the possible situations, circumstances, examples and all, which was really
Yeah.
convincing and an eye-opening thing.